When Jared lost his job in the city, he felt the world closing in on him. His savings were almost gone, his landlord was making deadly threats, and the weight of his life felt crushing. While packing up what little he owned, his fingers brushed against an old, forgotten letter. It was from his grandfather, a man he barely remembered. The faded ink read, "If you ever feel lost, come to the house in Willow Creek. It will always welcome you." Jared had never been there, but with no other options, he packed a single bag and caught the next bus to the unfamiliar town. Willow Creek was a ghost of a place. The silence was thick, broken only by the wind whistling through old wooden houses with broken fences and dusty, deserted streets. As Jared walked, he felt eyes on him. The few residents he saw stared, their faces cold and unwelcoming, making it clear he didn't belong. When he finally found his grandfather's house, a shiver ran down his spine. It was perfect. And like the rest of the town, this house was immaculate. The paint was fresh, the windows were spotless, and the grass was neatly cut. It looked lived in, cared for. He thought maybe someone had taken over the property. He knocked, but the sound was swallowed by the silence. No answer. He cautiously pushed the door, and it swung open without a sound. As if it had been expecting him, the inside was just as pristine. The wooden floors gleamed, polished to a mirror shine. Chairs were tucked neatly under a dining table. A kettle sat on the stove, still warm to the touch. A sense of unease crept over him, but exhaustion won the battle. He decided to stay just for the night. The next morning, Jared woke up to something impossible. On the dining table were two plates, warm, with faint traces of a meal, as if someone had just finished eating. But he was alone. He searched every room, his heart pounding against his ribs. The house was empty. He decided to leave. This was too strange. But as he reached for the doorknob, the front door slammed shut with a violent bang. He thought it was the wind, until he heard the metallic click of the lock turning on its own. He was trapped. He tried every window, but they were all sealed tight. The terrifying realization slowly dawned on him: the house didn't want him to leave. Over the next few days, the strangeness escalated. At night, footsteps echoed through the halls. They started as soft, distant sounds, but grew louder. More confident with each passing hour, he heard faint whispers seeming to come from inside the walls themselves. The tantalizing smell of freshly cooked food would waft from the kitchen, but whenever he checked, the room was empty and cold. On the fifth night, he found a new plate of food waiting for him on the table. A bowl of hot soup and a piece of fresh bread. He hadn't made it. Trembling, he whispered into the empty room, "Who is doing this?" The house responded with a low, groaning creak, like heavy footsteps approaching from behind him. He scrambled backward, his eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, a row of old photographs crashed down from the wall. They were pictures of his grandfather, standing with various townspeople. In every single photo, the locals looked deeply uncomfortable, almost terrified. His grandfather, however, stood in the center of each one, a smile stretched too widely across his face. Jared picked one up. Behind the frame, carved directly into the plaster of the wall, was a message. He checked another, and another. They were all there. Scratched frantically into the wall. "He fed us to the house. Don't stay here. Run." An icy dread washed over him. He lunged for the front door again, rattling the handle, but it was immovable. That night, he barricaded himself inside a small closet, hoping to hide. As he drifted into a terrified, shallow sleep, footsteps started again. This time, they stopped directly outside the closet door. Jared held his breath, listening to the deafening silence. The door handle slowly turned, and the door creaked open. No one was there. But then, something cold and impossibly strong grabbed his ankle. He screamed, kicking wildly, and scrambled away. Looking back, he saw them fingers, made of wood and varnish, emerging from the floorboards. The house itself was alive. He fled, running up the stairs to the top floor, where he found a small attic room, locked with a rusty chain. He grabbed a heavy object and smashed the lock. Inside, covered in a thick layer of dust, was a diary. his grandfather's. He flipped it open, and the horrifying truth was revealed in the frantic, looping script. His grandfather had made a deal. The house would protect him, feed him, keep him safe from the world. But it demanded a price. It needed to be fed. It craved people. Visitors, strangers, anyone who stepped inside. The house didn't eat them with teeth or claws. It absorbed them, pulling them into its very structure, making them a permanent part of the walls, the floors, the foundation. They became the house. And now, it wanted Jared. The walls of the attic began to groan, physically closing in on him. The floorboards buckled and bent upwards, reaching for him like grasping hands, clutching the diary. Jared smashed the attic window with the last of his strength. He leaped out, catching a tree branch that tore his arm, and fell to the ground. He didn't look back. He just ran, stumbling through the darkness until he collapsed on the main road. A passing truck driver found him, and the next morning, Jared led the police back to the location. But when they arrived, they were met with an impossible sight. The house was gone. In its place was nothing but a barren, square patch of dead grass where the foundation used to be. They searched for weeks, but found no trace of the building. The authorities called it a delusion, a story born from stress and trauma. But Jared knew the truth. The house wasn't destroyed. It had simply moved. And somewhere out there, in another quiet, forgotten town, it was standing. Silent and patient, waiting for its next lost visitor to welcome inside.